Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
Welcome back to another episode of the Networking RX podcast. I'm your host for today, Frank Agan, founder and president of AmSpirit Business Connections. Before we get started, remember at AmSpirit Business Connections, we're looking for people to add to our team of franchisees. This is an opportunity, a franchise opportunity that existing entrepreneurs, coaches, consultants, or professionals could add on to what they're already doing. In fact, it involves just a couple hours in the early morning, a few days a week, helping other business professionals become more successful through professional networking and exchange of quality referrals. The wonderful thing about this franchise opportunity is that not only do our franchisees realize a financial gain from operating the AmSpirit Business Connections model, but the business networks that they develop become great sources of referrals for their primary focus as well. Why just be in a network when you can own the network? If you or someone you know would like to learn more about the AmSpirit Business Connections franchise opportunity, please contact me using the email at the end of this podcast. Okay, on with the show. From what I understand, the biggest challenge for many people contemplating a podcast is simply whether or not they have enough material. After all, and maybe you don't know, but there's a fair amount of front-end work involved in setting up a podcast, and it's hardly worth it if you can only muster enough material for, say, 10 episodes. Which incidentally is exactly where I'm at. This is my 10th episode. At any rate, for me, my challenge is just the opposite. I don't struggle to come up with material. I have loads of material. My problem is that I have so much material that I find myself bogged down with deciding what to talk about. It's like I have this ongoing debate in my mind about what I should talk about next. Believe me, it's a good problem to have, but it does consume a fair amount of mental energy and keeps me from taking action from time to time. At any rate, I didn't want to get too far along in this podcast series without tackling the subject of how to work a networking event. As I field questions from participants at keynotes and programs I deliver, this is often a topic of concern. It feels as if one of the biggest fears that people have is finding themselves in a room of total strangers. And even if you don't fear that situation, you might not be totally comfortable with it. But it doesn't have to be this way. So let's talk about some tips, tricks, and insights on making the most of your next trip to a networking event. The first thing to ensure that you have a successful outing at a networking event is to have the right frame of mind. While you might not think this needs to be mentioned, there are plenty of people out there who trip themselves up at networking events before they actually even show up. So before you show up, remind yourself that networking works. Embark on the event with a sincere expectation that something will come from it. Now, it might not be all that you hope for, but something will come from being there. You might meet someone that can refer you clients. You might meet someone that can put you one step closer to that. You might reconnect with a former client or center of influence. You might gain a piece of information that holds all sorts of value. There's a bunch of potential benefit that can come from being at a networking event. You're never going to get it all, but you'll always likely get something if you show up with the right frame of mind. Also, reminding yourself that networking works is important, as you totally undermine your efforts if you bring with you anything but a positive disposition. No, not every day is going to be a good one, and you can't always ensure that your best days are those on which you're headed to a networking event. But whatever the case, as you head off to any networking event, to the extent possible, leave your worries behind at a minimum. And if you can, bring an uplifting spirit. Think of it this way. While support groups can be a networking opportunity, most networking events are not designed to be a support group. So don't treat them that way. Try to leave your troubles at the door. Yes, everyone has a boss with idiotic tendencies. No one is perfect and has a perfect life lined with perfect relationships. We all have something that's bugging us. Let's put it on hold for a couple hours. After all, that's why many events serve alcohol. Now, assuming you've got the proper mindset at the event, appropriately position yourself. It's like fishing. You go where the fish are or will be. In networking, the same logic holds. Stand, sit, be where you're most likely to be amongst people. Perhaps near the entrance, at the buffet or bar, close to other high traffic areas. If you stand outside the mainstream of human flow, or worse yet, sit off to the side, you virtually eliminate your opportunity for having anything come from the networking event, immediately or ever. So assuming you position yourself appropriately, you'll encounter people. Like a parade, from your position, people will go meandering by. At this point, it's simply up to you to initiate contact. That's worth repeating. It's up to you to initiate contact. Alternatively stated, don't wait or expect others to make contact with you. Making contact is 100% your obligation if you want a productive experience. When it comes to initiating contact, there's no magic. It involves 3 simple things. 1, make meaningful eye contact with people, where you look at them and they look at you back in the eye. There's nothing strange about this. It's completely human. Number 2, with the eye contact established, smile. I'm not talking about a forced smile, but a genuine, it's good to see you smile. Chances are human nature will kick in and they'll smile back. Then 3, with that eye contact and smile, simply say hello. They may say hello in return, or they may say nothing. Whatever the case, it's your obligation, and again, your sole obligation, to initiate contact. This sounds simple, and it is. Nevertheless, this may be a little out of your comfort zone. If it is, here's a great way to practice. Go anywhere there are people, for example, shopping, and simply wander around making eye contact, smiling, and saying hello. It may seem a little unnatural at first, but in time you'll develop a level of comfort that you can utilize in a more professional setting. Whatever the case, back to your experience at the event. At this moment, after making eye contact, smiling, and saying hello, one of 2 things will happen. First, nothing will happen, as they'll just move along. So what? Don't take it personally. There could be a dozen or more reasons why they didn't stop, and none of them relate to you. Second, they stop and are open to expanding the mere contact into a more meaningful connection. When this happens, ensure that you do these 3 things. 1, offer your hand to shake. Now, I don't intend to be insulting, but it's important to offer some basic handshaking advice. The handshake should be firm, intersecting your thumb web with theirs. Don't make your handshake too hard, a bone crusher that simply implies or serves to imply dominance. Alternatively, don't make your handshake too soft, a limp fish that might serve to imply disinterest. Make that handshake firm, but nothing spectacular. Remember, you're best to not be remembered for your handshake as opposed to being remembered for a bad one. Okay, on to number 2. The second thing you do as you shake hands is offer your name. In so doing, be sure to enunciate your first name clearly. In addition to furthering the connections, there are 2 other reasons as to why this is important. First, unless there's someone you know well, by offering your name, you serve to eliminate any potential embarrassment to them for not remembering your name from an earlier encounter. Second, when you offer your name, they're likely to offer theirs in return. Now, when you offer your name, if they don't recite theirs or offer their name, ask them, "What's your name?" Whatever the case, and this is the third thing to do at the start of your interaction, when they say their name, whether they did it initially or you had to prompt them, clarify their name aloud. For example, if they said, "Hello, my name is Susan," you would respond, "Great to meet you, Susan." You also might consider clarifying what they preferred to be called. Do you go by Susan, Sue, or either? These steps will help you better remember their name. In addition, it will subtly imply that their name is important to you. Once you've exchanged names, conversation will likely ensue. Engage in it. What does that conversation look like? Well, it's not a heady business or professional dialogue. Rather, these initial exchanges are better off being casual chit-chat. More or less, I'm talking about small talk. So here's my promise. The next Networking Art podcast episode will be on small talk, and we'll need an entire episode to tackle it. For now, let's assume you're artfully engaged in small talk. What's the next step? Here it gets a little, not complicated, but rather counterintuitive. Now, I know why you network. You network to get things, clients, important contacts, and other information. Understand this. The person you're talking with wants those same things. So here's an important point. You can make an indelible impression on them by finding some way of helping them, even if only a small way. So as you talk, run whatever they're saying through a filter in your head that queries, how can I add value to this person? Remember back to the golden rule of networking? Give first, get second. Again, I know this all sounds counterintuitive, but much of networking is. It's all about shoring up your life by shoring up the lives of others. So run through your mind. Is there someone you can refer them to? Is there someone you can introduce them to? Is there some information, insight, or whatever that might help them? Whatever the case, think about ways to help them and act on thoughts as you come up with them. It's important to note, however, that there's nothing that says you have to help them right then and there. In fact, often it doesn't happen in the moment. If you can help them in that moment, great. If not, don't despair. You can follow up at a later point, or even a later date, or a later week. There really isn't a deadline. The point is that you need to get your mind churning on helping others, and in time, that will help you make the most of building relationships and adding value to others. Okay, the conversation's moving on and you're pondering how you might help them. Great. Remember, however, you didn't muster up the courage to attend the event only to connect with just one person. That wouldn't make sense. Now, I'm not suggesting you do the complete opposite and pass out dozens of business cards to dozens of people and collect handfuls in return. That doesn't make sense either. What I am saying is that as wonderful as the person you're talking to is, don't burn out the conversation. These initial conversations shouldn't run more than 15, 20 minutes. That's a long time, and it could vary. It could be longer, it could be shorter. Whatever the case, one conversation shouldn't run the entire event. Here's a benchmark for conversations. You should attempt to connect enough with the person so that you're both comfortable continuing the conversation another time. Perhaps the next time's at the next event. Perhaps it's over coffee the next week. Whatever the case, get their contact information and pledge to get back to them. This will allow you the opportunity to meet and connect with other people. So how do you exit a conversation? This is what I find effective and what I see other people do. When you find a lull in the conversation, simply suggest to your conversation partner, I'd love to keep talking, but I don't want to occupy your whole time. Or there are a couple other people I need to connect with before the event is over. Or I promised myself that I'd meet 3 new great contacts today. You make one, and now I need to find 2 others. Then simply end the conversation with something like, if you don't mind, however, I'd like to reach out to you later this week or early next week, whatever the case may be, and arrange a time where you and I can continue this conversation. That works to end conversations. The final step then is follow up or follow through regarding whatever you indicated you would do. If you pledge to reconnect, do so. If you offered to introduce them to somebody, make it happen. If you indicated you'd send them something, get it sent. Know this, in my experience, few people follow through on what they say they're going to do. That's sad, but it's true. Given that, if you're committed to doing this, you immediately elevate yourself ahead of a significant portion of the networking population. Last point. People often ask how you can determine whether a networking event was worthwhile. My answer to that question is that all networking events are worthwhile. It's just that some offer more immediate value than others, but they all have value. The key is to simply go to events. If you feel you must, track your results however you deem appropriate. To be honest, I don't. I just go to events and trust that it's going to work. But before you completely pass judgment on an event, remember that the benefits of any networking activity may not present themselves for weeks, months, or even years. Remember, networking works. It might not just work how, where, or when you think it might. Quick reminder, next episode, here's my promise, we're going to talk small talk. More then.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.